What games define you?
Find ours out now.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. I am your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you lucky episode 63.
See, I decided I wasn't going to pound the table. I was going to do some jazz fingers.
Yeah, some magic hands.
Jazz fingers or magic hands.
For those that are missing out on the video, that are listening to us audio, you got to see those jazz hands.
You got to see them. So if you even want to come to YouTube, just you know what? We will make, we've already done jazz hands GIF once. So I guess you've probably seen me jazz hands before on Twitter if you follow us there. But we are Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. We come to you every Monday at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST on YouTube. And that's, if you want to watch us in video format, like we mentioned. If you do and you want to subscribe to us, keep up with our videos. This week we're doing a lot of E3 stuff. So if you are curious to see what our live reactions to those are, and we know a lot of people like to watch those themselves, but if you want to come back and see what we thought, we're doing that. And if you want to, let us know your thoughts of the E3 stuff and other videos, we definitely appreciate the comments. And you can also find us on SoundCloud, Spotify,
everything but Spotify.
It was supposed to be Spotify. It never happened. So, yeah, you can find us on podcast services. If you listen to us on podcast services that have a rating system, give us a rating or consider giving us a rating. Helps us know how we're doing, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And, of course, we like getting your ideas on there, but also through any means of reaching out to us. You can do it on our email at Triangle Squared Podcast at gmail.com or to our Twitter, which is at Triangle SQRD. But without further ado, Saul, this has been the build-up week to E3. What have you been playing? Or have you just been sitting in your chair tapping your fingers waiting?
Playing Dark Souls 3. We're back to that again. If you guys have been here with us since the very beginning, you will know that I love Dark Souls 3. And
he played it for I want to say literally 8 episodes in a row. That was his only game that he was playing.
Oh, dude.
Early days. It was very
crazy.
Interesting.
It's crazy. It's a super fun game and great game.
He played some today prior to the E3 stream.
I did. I created a brand new character. I got to New Game Plus on a strength build I was doing that's completely opposite from the Pyro build that I've done and the Dex build that I've done, not including the Saul's play that I've done. And I've done this all in prior of starting Saul's play. Shameless plug. Episode 4 just came out. Episode 5 is going to come out a day after this episode, so check those out if you're a fan of Dark Souls 3 or me. I appreciate it either way. But
I'm a fan of you, Saul.
Nope. Other than Dark Souls 3.
Played Switch at all this week?
No Switch at all this week.
To Switch fans across the globe, you're like their bastion of hope.
Me and Corey, we're going to keep the Switch train going.
Yeah, he was telling me he got Bayonetta. But so no Switch for you.
No Switch for me. No Detroit either. Detroit is a game that me and my fiance have been playing together, and lately we've been kind of exhausted and not really wanting to play after work because that kind of requires sitting in computer chairs and such instead of relaxing on the couch. So, but other than Dark Souls 3, I try to jump back into Bloodborne. I think I like Dark Souls 3 better than Bloodborne. I don't know. I am conflicted deep inside me because I've said so much that Bloodborne and Nier are the 2 games of the generation. But I really, really love Dark Souls 3. Bloodborne is just a different game with the same base, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. First platinum. Loved it. But after jumping into Bloodborne, I have not started Vampire either. I think Sean's going to let me borrow that. But I'm trying to think here. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, in contrast to you, I have been playing Vampire.
I was going to say I did. I did start the Surge, deleted that again. Because I got it for free, and then started up Neo again. Neo is a good game too. But other than that, I am done now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I did more Detroit as I was grinding out more of my platinum for that. I'm still not gotten the platinum. Once Vampire hit, I did play the night that Vampire released. I went ahead and installed it right before I went to bed. But even though I went and picked it up at midnight, I decided I was going to play a little more Detroit. So I did that. I'm trying to narrow down getting that platinum, which I should be very close. I would expect to have it by the end of this weekend, though we are pretty busy with wanting to do the E3 streams live.
Which is the reason for our set looking the way it is.
Yeah, so that's why we have an odd set today for you. Yeah. But we think we like it a little more. I think we may move this to be our permanent set.
Yeah,
we will ask the few of you who watch us on YouTube.
Let us know in the comments and down below. And we may change it. We're going to change up the back a little bit, potentially with some construction. But yeah, I like it. It's closer to the camera. I think it just works better. It's easy to set up. The lighting we have to kind of figure out because the lighting is a little bit different, but
Yeah, we will get it figured out.
Go ahead and continue on with what you've been playing.
But, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I did play anything else. I don't think I have.
It's been a busy week from what I've heard.
I mean, yeah, in the work sense, and then just generally going through and doing stuff. And I'm also getting some music stuff on the side prepped and, keeping that on the hush-hush, at least around town where it'll matter. But that's about all. So I think we can go ahead and move on. But I will say this episode's going to be a little bit more weird. I'm going to talk about general stuff. I did end up doing like a really big news, like going through the news, scouring through the news and putting stuff down that I thought was interesting. I didn't have a lot of time. I did a little bit of it. So instead what we're going to do is kind of talk about the things that we know happen and then kind of see what we feel about those. So let's see, Saul. First thing that I can, off the top of my head that I know of is that Hitman 2 was shown, which I think was weird. And this is another one of those, I don't remember Hitman 2 being leaked. Now, if it was, then... I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. We all knew it was coming, right?
Yeah, I don't remember it being leaked
why
either.
show it before E3? Why not just lump it in somewhere?
So weird.
Is it what I don't understand, and they're happening at such weird times, is it people trying to get out ahead of all the E3 jumble that's inevitably going to happen, or what? Because I don't feel like there was a need to show that the way they did, because it didn't leak. They're not having to get out ahead of somebody doing the leak and trying to do damage control and just being like, well, yeah, okay, it's real. Here's what to expect. You'll see more at E3. That didn't quite happen. I thought that was odd. Another game that came out, and I will say, like, I am generally excited for that. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm going to buy it. I did not play or buy the last one, but it looked great. I just never got around to it. This one being a full-fledged $60 game, dropping the season moniker, which makes me think it's going to be more of a $60 product. I sure hope so. I think that I'm at least a little more interested in keeping up with it. But what do you feel Hitman wise?
No, I used to like the older ones on PS2. That's really just
like Blood Money and all that.
Yeah, that was 2, wasn't it? Hitman 2 Blood Money?
I think so. Or was Blood Money the first one that they did on 360?
I did play that one. So if that was on 360, then
I can't remember.
I did play one.
I played a couple of them. I've never been like real into them, but yeah.
No, I haven't either. If I ever needed a sneaky...
I like Hitman
cool
Go.
Mechanics.
Hitman Go was cool, and that sounds like a very odd thing to say, but even though it was started life as a mobile game, and I played it on Vita, and moving it around from a tactical standpoint and for how cheap I got it, it was very fun, and it was a fun platinum. But let's see, what else? We know that hot off the release, speaking of Vampire, right after they're releasing that, we see Bandai Namco come out with Don't Nod and show a Twin Mirror, which is like a psychological thriller, which is cool. I'm kind of liking news this way. It's a little more loose, but...
I'm just kind of browsing Reddit. For those that know that EA's E3 press conference have already happened, and I just go into the thing that says Anthem releases February 22nd, 2019, and then the first comment is same day as Days Gone. Oof.
Yeah, so that's one thing. I mean, we know that, but I was going to bring that up though. Days Gone was announced to be the 22nd when Sony did their pre-show with that they're doing one game per day, which is an interesting idea. I guess they got a lot of weird feedback from the previous one they did last year, which was before the show for like an hour, which I thought was cool because we got to see Knack 2 last year. We got to see Gran Turismo Sport. Things that we had, like Knack 2 didn't necessarily need to be in the main thing. I think it would have been fine. Gran Turismo Sport definitely didn't need to be in the main conference last year, so it was smart of them to put it out in front of it. This one a week is very concise and to the point, and I'll give them kudos for that.
Yeah.
They didn't waste a lot of time. They came out, showed what it was, and then went on about their business. Good for them. But yeah, so Anthem coming out February 22nd as well. Crazy to see, but I've already said in the EA thing, I don't think that that's going to be as big of a threat as it could have been. I don't think those games clash enough. I do think that they'll have an effect on each other, and I do think that Anthem will have more of an effect because, like I said, people know BioWare by name. People do not know Ben by name.
Right.
And that is a very big difference. So if you want to sell off of one or the other. Now, the other thing is that zombie games do tend to do well just from a very, rabid fan base that really wants new zombie games, so I don't think that that's that weird. Saul, can you think of anything? I've got other new stuff. Is there anything that you can think of that maybe I haven't?
Let me see. No, other than just the general EA stuff, pretty.
Oh, I didn't go much into Twin Mirror, but Twin Mirror is like a psychological thriller. We didn't see gameplay. We did get an early 2019. We got 2019. It wasn't even early. We got 2019 as a release window. They didn't go any further. They didn't really show gameplay, but they showed a lot of cinematic cutscene style things, and it looks really crazy. It almost makes me think it's inspired by Twin Peaks, which is even more weird with the name structure. But it looks cool, and depending on how Vampire keeps going for me, Vampire's been really good. so far. It's obviously a AA game. It's got AA leanings, but it's also got a lot of cool things that ACG did a review, and I agree with this statement 100%. It's the perfect way to word it. That's why I'm going to pretty much verbatim. It's not 100%, but they said that you see in the game things that you wouldn't see a AAA developer or publisher do.
Right.
And that's cool, and that's one of the things I love about gaming is you get to kind of go across that, and they are doing a lot of things. One thing I told Saul, for people who are kind of maybe were on the fence about Vampire or curious about what it is, this will help you one way or the other, either come off and realize you don't want it or maybe even push you even to getting it. The way that they showed the game, I wouldn't have thought it was this, but it's almost like a Bloodborne Dark Souls style where it's like an open world, but it's very structured and has like, this one's got districts, but they're obviously as you move through, it's like you go into new sections. A couple things are like, the social aspect of the game bleeds into the district. So when you go to a district, it tells you the status of the district, whether it's healthy, serious, like in a bad, or if it's just like dilapidated and really run down with all the people out of it, which is interesting to see. And the other thing that's cool, as the districts start to change statuses, if you do good or bad in them, they'll do better or worse.
That's what Sean was telling me.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like if you go to one and you start killing a bunch of people or a bunch of people die or whatever, you'll start to see like paint on the doors and stuff littered across the street where people ran out in a hurry. That's a cool little atmosphere building thing. But more than that, the way that it's got this Bloodborne feel to it, it's these things called hideouts that you can find in each district, and you'll unlock new ones, and you kind of go up to them and you go and you sleep. And when you sleep, you evolve, which is like a leveling mechanic, which is cool. And that's based off of the amount of experience you have. Huh?
Said Oblivion.
Sure. I mean, plenty of games have done it that way, but
that's what Sean told me. I was like, that's Oblivion.
Yeah.
Like, that's
so you evolve in so it brings up where you can actually allocate your experience points into different active or passive skills. That's cool. But then when you leave the hideout, once you've gotten to the bed and you confirm, it goes on to the next night because you're a vampire. And when you go back out, all the monsters you may have slain on the way up there are back. So it's almost like sitting at like a bonfire or reigniting the lamps, which is cool. I think that's a good way to make you want to kind of do that. The other way it goes is kind of similar to what God of War did, along the same lines as Bloodborne and Dark Souls, which is like an interconnected world where a gate will be locked on one side, but it'll specifically say you can't open it from this side. And you go around, and when you get to the other side, you can open it and create shortcuts that way. Cool. So the game is impressing me so far. I've played probably a good 5 hours, I would imagine, maybe a little bit more. The game has moments of challenges. I'm going to play
rookie
more.
Numbers. You got to let me borrow it.
No, I mean, Sean might.
I may not see Sean until after I'm done on vacation, though.
That is true. So, all right. Well, anyway, that's kind of, I think that Vampire is cool. And so that's my thoughts on that since I was talking about playing that. But with what I was going to go is if I like Vampire as much as I currently do and continue to do through the end of the game, then I'm going to be that much more hyped for Twin Mirror. Twin Mirror looks cool right now, but it's in that stage in between where I was with Vampire when they first showed it off. I was like, it's cool. I like Victoria Age London. Makes me think of the Order, and they did the atmosphere really well on the final release. That's cool. But seeing this, I'm like, okay, this is cool. And if Vampire ends up being awesome, then I'm reinforced that much more. But until then, I'm waiting to see more. But maybe it'll be both. Maybe they show more that's awesome looking, and then Vampire really just continues to meet my expectations or exceed them, which is perfectly fine for me. Saw any other new stuff that you can think of?
No, I think that's it. I was trying to think.
Oh,
I was going back to the
Hold
subreddit.
Up. Winner Chicken Dinner brought to you by Sir Herp. So did we cover this already?
We did that last week.
Okay, so no Winner Chicken Dinner this week?
Kill off that segment, please.
No, there is no segment dying.
No, kill off that segment.
Let's see. There's something else, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, RPG Maker. MV recently leaked through Amazon, I think Amazon Mexico, and it shows for a November 27th release date, which is a great time period for it.
Oh, it really is.
Now, this is a leak that's obviously true. There's case art and everything. I mean, it was very much so. NIS is going to be the people who are publishing it, which is great to see. And
I like NIS a lot.
The NIS are great. I mean, they do a lot of games that I really enjoy, and they do a lot of games that I know Liam enjoys. So
yeah,
he's the weeb is strong with that one.
Yes.
I think that's cool. RPG Maker I've always seen on computer. I know it used to be on consoles forever ago. I think 3DS or DS1 both had their own, but they were very limited. So seeing this
DS
one come,
had one, yeah, and it was real bad.
Yeah, seeing this one come, I'm hoping it's a little more full-fledged. And
well, I mentioned, and
who
I'm curious,
knows?
Like I was saying, is the external stuff for Sony is what has me really curious.
And I will say the same thing for Nintendo, because as of right now, we do not have any confirmation that Nintendo supports external stuff.
Yeah.
Even from a matter of how do you get them onto the games.
I really hope that they do, and I hope that they have a somebody answer this question for me. Do any of the recent RPG makers can you share your games? If so,
on
I'm
PC,
super excited.
I'm almost like it's almost guaranteed that you can. I've never done it, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
You can compile your game separately or whatever. Or even if you just wanted to take your save file and send it to somebody, like, hey, play my game.
I would
Worst
love
case
that.
scenario. Now, if they actually have something where you can go through curated levels and stuff like that, or
I would love it.
you know, and then user voted games, that would be awesome. Which actually brings me back to something we didn't talk about a few weeks ago that I think is worth mentioning. A few weeks ago in the Discord, we talked about it a little bit, but they showed off new Dreams gameplay, and actually what they showed off was some gameplay, but it was really the level editing, and the guy went into a lot of details about the game had gotten completely basically rebooted a couple times from idea changes and stuff, but he went into it saying it's like a full-fledged engine, and that's basically what their mind is. So it's a game that you can play and it's got that all in there, but it's also just an engine that works within the PlayStation that you can do all from a controller, and it streamlines the engine process. Now, depending on how true that really is, and from what they've shown, it looks pretty damn true. This is what I think would be cool. I do not have any real reason in my mind to believe that this is what they would do. But what I think would be really cool would be if they made some way for when you go into the game, when you're making a level, and this would be a great incentive, that you could actually make it like a marketplace within there, where if you choose to charge for your game, you can, and you can do things like cut a trailer together in something, like maybe even in the what's the editor on PlayStation called? Do you remember?
Oh, Share Factory.
Share Factory. That'd be cool if you could edit a trailer together in there and then use it to show people your game.
That would be really.
That would
cool,
be awesome. These would be cool ways to integrate features from the PlayStation into the game itself. But I think that would be awesome. Let people do that, so that way you get people who are that much more willing to make crazy games and spend a lot of time. Because while in Little Big Planet 1, 2, and even Vita, you saw a lot of people dump a lot of hours into levels or a series of levels. That sometimes made their own games. Like you saw people make first-person shooters inside of Little Big Planet 1 and 2, which was insanity. But, you know, if you can do that and you can really give people who are creative and have a drive to want to try and do that, a reason and a real push and some kind of incentive, I guess would be the best word to use, to do so, it'd be great if you could let people charge whatever they wanted to, $1 be it, and even just be like, hey, I'm going to make this, and if you want to play it, charge $1 for it, you're going to get a full game. It would be absolutely awesome, even though I know it's not going to happen. If they had it to where you could somehow get trophies made for it, won't happen.
I would say that trophies are a no-go, because imagine trophy manipulation.
Exactly, and there's a number, and then definitely now when you're dealing with the cards having the giving you reward points for your amount of trophies, that's one thing. They're going to cut down on that, so I know that won't happen. But even just the idea of me going, hey, I'm going to make this really awesome game that I think is amazing, and give me an idea of how to get, like, you know, design and level editing. It could be some people's, which already happened with Little Big Planet 1 and 2, but some people's movement into game design, which would be amazing. Can you imagine somebody going and making the next great game because they started making a game on Dreams and became a great level designer or whatever?
Yeah.
Things like that is just a cool idea. Now, whether or not the game will be that flexible and letting people do that, I don't know, but I think that would be a cool way to make a platform for people, and that would be a cool way to make the game have real legs and make people want to buy it. Maybe they see this awesome game that's within it, and they go, you know what, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to play that level, I'm going to play other games that are maybe free or low charge, and then maybe I'll make my own game. And that might be a way that you give it legs in a completely different artificial way outside of the standard, you know, because this game probably won't have microtransactions.
Somewhat of an experience too. Like,
yeah, and
with
I mean,
making games,
absolutely,
and game design.
I think that would be very cool. Let's see, any other big news? I'm trying to think of other things that happened this week. I think Sonic was last week, right? We talked about that in the last episode, the Sonic All-Stars racing game. So I don't know. I think I'm okay with that. I wasn't just worried about scouring the news insanity today. Now we can talk about some of the stuff that happened at EA since we've already watched that one. Yeah. With that being said, they showed off Unravel 2, which is actually out today, which is awesome.
Actually, yeah, that was really cool.
That looks cool. I mean, I think if it's priced competitively, $20, I would say $20 is about where it needs to be. Yeah. If it's a little bit higher, maybe
I'd say 30 to 40, depending on the length of it. They didn't mention length.
And
with it being a co-op game.
Yeah, I feel like it probably. I mean, 30 seems like 20 would be great. 30 would be reasonable. 40 seems too much. When you have a game like Ratchet and Clank that was 40, you know. But
well, it's about the same, isn't it? They're both about the same length.
Yeah, it just depends, man. Who knows? But that's one of those weird, like, it could be anywhere. I want to see more of the game, but I'm definitely interested in showing it.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about that and you haven't seen it yet, it's a co-op built game, and even if you're not playing with somebody else, you always have this other character with you, and they're blue, you're red, you're tied together by the yarn, and it actually makes like a cool grapple system to where you can throw yarn to link onto stuff, but then you can be the anchor, and they'll use you to swing off of that.
I feel like that's reminded me of a game mechanic in something, and I can't think of what.
It definitely makes me think of the Grappinator or whatever it was called, the grapple hook that they introduced in Little Big Planet 2. I talked about that on the stream.
Yeah.
The game really just, and the way it chose to use that for puzzle solving from like a manipulate weight perspective.
I like
and
that too.
Generate momentum and stuff like that. I think that was a cool idea. So I think that game has a lot of chance of pulling me back in a good way. And I'm definitely happy with that. They showed Sea of Solitude, which was and SOS, which is clever considering what the game is kind of doing.
That was perfect.
And it looked like it had a really cool premise to it, and it was where humans turn into monsters the longer they're alone. And it's kind of following the story of a girl who's becoming a monster and trying to figure out how to become a human again. It looks like it's going to be a relatively weighty story, which is cool. But it depends, because I think sometimes weightiness depends on how metaphorical you want to go.
Yeah.
Because I think in some senses you could say that Rime was a little weighty, but it was weighty in the subject matter that it ended up being about, not necessarily in the moment-to-moment gameplay.
Yeah.
Or even in the moment-to-moment story beats. So with that being said, who knows?
Battlefield 5 got a Battle Royale mode.
Yep, which is, about what I would expect Saul to like. I'm sure Blake, I actually didn't look and see if he mentioned anything in the chat, the Discord chat about it, but I would imagine that he is...
I'm curious about it. Like any AAA Battle
curious
Royale
about it. That's what I mean. He may not be
super
ecstatic,
to
but
me.
I think that he would be, because I mean, he's excited for the game anyway, just like you are. So
yeah, Black Ops 3 has me kind of concerned with the vehicles and such in Battle Royale.
You mean in 4, Black Ops 4?
Yeah. I said that title like 3 times wrong. But maybe 4 times wrong. Who knows at this point. But yeah, I'm super interested in it. They announced also a lot of sports stuff involving Madden 2019, which not a big surprise. They announced a mobile RTS, which
Command and Conquer?
Yeah, was Command and Conquer Rivals.
Bringing back the Command and Conquer is a cool way to do it.
Weird. I'm curious. Like, I kind of want to try it out. I'm curious to how it actually plays, because they tried to they played a game on stage,
which was odd from a pacing standpoint.
Yeah, there was a lot of pacing issues with the conference, but
they showed off Anthem a lot.
Okay, so just looking, this is why I don't like the PS4 subreddit a whole lot. I go there a lot, and it's like 4chan. It's somewhere you visit a lot, but it's a cesspool. There were so many people hating on Anthem, saying about how bad it looked. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, you got to give EA this one thing. Anthem looked good. It may not have looked great.
And it may not be a cup of tea thing.
It looked a lot better than I expected it to.
Oh, I think in a lot of the ways it looked great. Now, does that mean it'll be a great game? Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a very big different thing. But I think with what they've shown me, I am more on the, in your mind, you kind of go the buy it at launch, wait for it, or never play it.
Right.
I am currently somewhere in between wait for it or buy it at launch. I will probably play it some way, some fashion, regardless of what happens. It may not be directly at launch. I think I personally, and I'm hoping that Days Gone ends up being great, I think I would personally rather spend my time into a story-driven single-player experience. But I think the other thing that will kind of paint my decision is how much of the community is going to end up getting Anthem.
Yeah.
And if you get Anthem at launch, which I think it looks like you probably will. So
yeah.
I will probably get it at launch too, which is good. And I think that's enough to sway me, because beforehand I kept saying, you want EA to learn lessons with the things they've done, and it looks like they have. They've been put under a microscope by the community in a lot of ways, and I think that we're seeing the product of that. Battlefield 5 is abolishing all of the microtransactions and any kind of monetization. You're seeing a lot of these games in the EA thing that have nothing to do with monetization in the EA Originals program. That's great. Good to see. I'm glad they spent enough time on that to show a couple of games and talk about a way out success, which is something we talked about last week.
Yeah.
And I think the other bit that was cool is that you saw Anthem also learn from those. So it found a way to be monetized, which is great, because I do understand that games sometimes need that extra push of, if you want to pay us more, you should be able to, and that's great. And if I want to be like, you know what, I like this game, I think I've gotten my $60 worth out of it, I'm going to give them $2 or $1 or whatever for this cool armor set or whatever it is, visual item, because I just want to. Yeah. Not because I necessarily think it's worth it or whatever it be, but
it's 'cause I want to support
them.
than them.
Yeah, and there's a lot
Or maybe
of ways.
our whole entire squad can have the same camo. That'd be cool.
And they talked about a lot of ways. There's going to be no pay to win features. There'll be nothing that gives you an advantage in pay. That's in your play. That's awesome. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with stuff like this, it looks like exactly what I was hoping they did. And we talked about in the thing. I don't want to retread too much of it in case people kind of cross-watch between our E3 reactions. But it looks like they just really looked at what Destiny's gotten flack for, and they tried to steer it completely in the other direction, which is probably the smartest thing you can really do.
Thing you could do.
Because what have you even seen Destiny do? With the Forsaken...
And that's it. Forsaken is what I think Destiny's done right so far.
So Forsaken, and you have to wait until it comes out. But I mean, from a sheer thing, their messaging across that reveal, and that's something we can talk about. The Forsaken, that was a news piece. But across that reveal, I mean, their entire messaging was: we understand what you didn't like about Destiny 2 from the start, and we understand that some people liked it, but some people didn't. So we're going to make it to where we change all this stuff, but we're also going to fix everything to where if you like Destiny 2, you can continue to play it that way, no problem. If you like Destiny 1, you can play it that way, no problem. If you want to do some weird mixture of the two, you can do it. And I do think that's great. Giving people the ability to do what they want to should have been what they were aiming for at launch.
And what's crazy is
that's okay.
And a lot of people, and I told you this before, I can't think, I don't think I mentioned it on the EA stream. I don't think I did. But Destiny is developed by two teams, technically. It comes out from the game team or the dev team, and then the game team, or the live team is what they're called, works on any of the updates afterwards. And a lot of the complaints that people had with Destiny 2 weren't addressed quickly enough because they were already working on Warmind and Curse. Now that they're done, the live team's taking over. This is an example of the live team. And you saw this happen You saw this happen in repeat with Destiny 1, in which Taken King was done by the live team, and how good Taken King was compared to House of Wolves and the other one.
Dark Below.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fair, and and you hope that's it, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
I've railed on Destiny a lot, right? So, in talking about the Destiny side of this Anthem stuff, but I've railed on Destiny 2 a lot. But the big saving grace of the idea of a games as a service is that any game can come back from the brink, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of that's kind of the thing. So, I don't, while I'm mad that Destiny 2 ended up the way it is for a number of reasons, the fact that they as long as they keep get enough support from the community who wants to continue playing it,
right,
to justify them being able to put the time into it, much like we saw with No Man's Sky. I want to say that.
Yeah.
And we saw No Man's Sky do it completely free of charge, which is kind of crazy.
Their updates were free.
But with that being said, they had enough of a community that kept playing to where they were like, it is worth it for us to do this.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, seeing No Man's Sky turn around and become the game that everybody wanted it to be at launch is awesome. That's good to see.
True, yeah.
It took a long time, but we even saw them do things that people didn't necessarily think they wanted early on, and that's cool. So you get to do that, and I think that that's great for Destiny, and I think that the same thing will be true of Anthem. Anthem gets the leg up of getting to see two Destinies come out and learn from their mistakes, plus the Division. They're coming in way after every other big publisher besides Activision, I guess. Or no, Activision's Destiny. So yeah, they're coming after every other big publisher, and in that sense, they are getting to learn from every other publisher's mistake, and that's cool. That's good to see on their part. Not that I think the Division had a lot of problems. I think the Division did pretty well up front, but I know that a couple people had their things.
And we went to it kind of late too. I know I went to it a little bit earlier than you did, but we went to it after a good.
The Division. Yeah, sure. So I'll say that's definitely there, but there's not a drop this week, so we will not be moving into our traditional drop.
But we will go into Reader Mail.
Yeah, we will, and so that kind of covers everything.
For all those that do not know, if this is your first episode, you can follow us on Twitter at TriangleSQRD. We always link it in the description. We have a Discord as well if you want to join us there. And every week on Twitter, typically on Friday, we ask you guys to ask us questions that we'll answer on the show. We pick 3 of those, we'll answer them, and we will take the rest and put them in a Reader Mail Google Keep file, and we'll read those on the very first Friday of the month. Or it'll post on the very first Friday of the month. I was trying to keep the illusion of, anyways.
that we upload as soon as we're done every time.
Yeah.
I wish.
So we got a lot of E3 questions, so I'm going to go ahead and knock those out because those aren't going to do that well a month from now. So we'll do those 3. And the first one is, Ryan, what past PlayStation E3 conference was your favorite? Or favorite single PlayStation E3 or PSX announcement? Brett, which question do you want?
Okay, so I'm going to say both of them. I'm going to kind of answer both of them.
Okay.
The past E3 conference that was my favorite was realistically...
PlayStation.
I know. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what I'm talking about. I think it realistically is very hard to say from a something for everyone plus a lot of hype. Now, whether the game's delivered later, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the feeling and the experience in the moment, right?
2016.
That's kind of what I'm going. I think that the 2016 one
Yep.
was really good.
Spider-Man,
you got
God
to-
of War,
You got a lot of great pacing with the way that things went across. We got to see
Final Fantasy
Horizon.
VII, Horizon.
Yep.
Wasn't God of War the opener for that one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for 2016. So I want to say that one was just paced phenomenally. That's also where we got to see.
We did get to see Spider-Man there. Okay.
Yeah.
Or did we?
I thought so. That was the first time they showed it, right?
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Days
Yeah.
Gone was the first time there too, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
And then we
There's
saw it again last year.
a lot of variety.
So,
Unfortunately, that variety's bit us in the butt.
Well, the problem is that spread ended up coming back over into last
2
year's.
years.
So that was
Well, not quite 2 years, but
it was a catch-22 where it was great that they had that much variety the year before, but they maybe revealed a little too much of their hand
Yeah.
when they could have probably held Days Gone, to be honest.
they should have.
Definitely now that we know that it's coming in 2019, but that's okay.
And probably going to get pushed back again because of Anthem. Oh, and apparently Crackdown comes out in February too. So those games are going to have to move far away from Anthem.
I still think that Days Gone would benefit from moving up into January.
Oh yeah, well
And I stand there. I don't think that they will delay it. If anything, I think they'll move it up. But
That's
we
fair,
will
too.
see. And that has happened, by the way. People go, well, they never move games up. Yes, they do. They've done it to a couple of games.
Didn't that happen with Nier?
No.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
No, Nier didn't move up. I can't remember what it was, but there was a game that came out beginning of 2017 that did end up moving up like a week or two.
Yeah,
That-
I thought it was
and I
Nier.
thought it was odd. So
Okay.
But with that being said, I mean, that's probably mine. Now,
Yeah.
my favorite single
2016.
PlayStation 3 E3 announcement, I think I've talked about on
PlayStation
this.
3?
PlayStation E3.
Yeah.
My bad. But my favorite single E3 or PSX announcement from PlayStation side. Now, I'm going to say because this was at PlayStation, so this is again encapsulated into what it was. It's a third-party game. I don't think anything has matched just how much of a, I don't want to say an out-of-body experience, but how I don't know how to even describe how retarded excited I was when they showed off Kingdom Hearts 3 for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Blaze called each other, unable to breathe and talk because we were just like, Hannah was like, "Are you okay?" Because I literally could not. I
Just wait till I get that
overcome with
July
anxious
1st
anxiety,
Kingdom Hearts
or
3
excitement,
announcement.
anxiety.
July 1st. I'm calling it. That's when
Well,
Kingdom
we will
Hearts 3 is
see.
gonna come
I'm
out.
very, very excited to see what Square ends up having because I do think now that we see
When
that
is Square's?
Nier broke 3 million sales, with Nier breaking 3 million sales, that even further concretes my opinion that we're going to get something Nier related soon. Maybe not this year,
I just
but
got
soon.
around Square. We can't do.
Well, I don't think we can, but that's okay.
It'll be early Monday.
Yeah, it's okay.
Calling sick.
Well, hey, if it's at my lunch, I'll just take lunch.
Just call in sick.
I probably can't, man, but
Nobody watches that from work. Just call in
tell
sick.
on me. Okay, so Saul, what are yours?
So yeah, 2016 for sure. And I'm gonna say Final Fantasy 7. Almost in tears. I know it's cliche to say. I know it's a cliche way to describe it that you're almost in tears. But yeah, me and Brett were here that day, and I was just like,
It was really cool. Now, that was 2014? 15. Now, I will say the other thing in 2015 was impeccably placed, too, because Last Guardian was awesome.
Nope. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say another person, because that wraps around into another question.
No. I was going to, and I could say that. Now, I just want to say that a backup favorite announcement that I think would have been good, and I could also see being a really good answer, because I did say that obviously 2016 was very well done. I do think that there's an argument from a lot of people's standpoint that 2013 was impeccably well done, and that's because it was paced well, but it also had punches to throw, which made it seem that much more lively in the moment.
Yeah.
Nothing is quite as exciting as watching E3 and hearing a literal uproar in the crowd when they come out and say that you can play used games and all this stuff, and it was that mic drop moment that everybody talks about during E3 13.
You're still answering a question.
But go ahead.
Second question, we have good old Alan Malcolm over there with White Eagle UK. Worst E3 show you can remember and best E3. Well, best E3 is a tie for me. Like he was talking about, E3 2013 for Sony and Bethesda 2015.
So Fallout 4.
Just the fact that they answered the wants of Skyrim Remastered, and they answered it well. Because it looked amazing, and now we're all Skyrim fatigued out wanting the next one, and you know we make fun of Bethesda.
I thought Skyrim was
the same one. I thought. Was it?
Yeah.
Dang,
I'm fairly
that
positive.
doesn't make 2016 or 15 nearly as good then.
Yeah, no. The only thing that they had was a brief mention
Well, it was something else.
brief mention of Dishonored 2, which was awesome. No problem.
There was
there.
something else other than Fallout, though.
No, I'm sorry. 2015 was a brief mention of Dishonored, and then we got to see Dishonored 2 for full-fledged at Bethesda's E3 2017 because it released 2016. Sorry,
there was Doom. That's what it was. It was Doom and Fallout 4.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So
I think that's right.
Yeah, and I know that's right now. Skyrim hyped me up the next year, but that was also at Sony's, wasn't it? Or was that at Bethesda's?
No, that was at Bethesda's.
Okay, Sony did have it in theirs, I'm pretty sure, right?
Maybe. I don't remember.
But yeah, that one for sure is tied with 2013. After the crushing Microsoft one back then as like somebody wanting the next Xbox console, and then Sony just was that light of hope, that ray of sunshine in a dark, dark time. But yeah, for Fallout 4, for it to be announced finally, and I think me and Brett were sitting there and we're like, okay, it's going to be like, what, a year out? And they're going like, November. I'm like,
now,
what?
that's the thing, because here's the thing. Again, in the moment, right? Because I've since then played Fallout 4, and it was a fine game. I enjoyed it. It was
somewhat disappointing.
It was a good game, but it was disappointing overall to me. I don't think it... I think
solid 6 if I rate it, or 7.
Now, it's a mixture. 7. It's a mixture. See, because the thing about Fallout 4 is that in the moment, I think that the reason that the game ended up falling a little bit flat is that the way they chose to announce it was so much hype because of the fact that it's like, oh, here it is. It looks awesome.
Base building.
Here it is. It looks awesome. Besides, the only thing that I had to say when it was done, I was like, it looks fun. It looks cool. The only thing that was disappointing is that coming off The Witcher 3, the game did look dated. Yeah, from when they showed it, that was the thing to me. I was like, it doesn't look graphically how I expect it to look. It looks a lot like Skyrim, just spruced up a little. But whatever. It had a better color palette than other Fallout, so I was happy about that. But the thing is it looking as fun as it did, and the idea of playing another Bethesda game.
Well, I just need the mouse. I don't want to interrupt you. That's what I thought you were going to get. Take the mouse away from me. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. I somehow changed the time, and that's what I was trying to do.
It was already like that.
No, it wasn't. It was on beats.
Nope, it was on seconds. I already did it.
When did you do it? Like a second ago?
No.
No.
Beginning of the show. Anyway, nope. But I think that was part of what shot it in the foot is the mixture of it looking good and coming so soon that when you got it and it didn't quite live up to what your mind's hype was for it. Like we say, hype's a dangerous thing. It's a balance between you want it because you want people to get excited about the game, but you don't want to do it so hard that it bites you in the game.
Episode 43 on hype.
In the long run, yeah.
I actually don't know if episode 43 is the hype.
Me either, but yeah, we have a hype-based episode where I talk about the dangers of it. But I don't know. So, I mean, best gets hard because I think as an overall thing, I think there was a lot that made, from an announcement standpoint, I still say 2016. From a purely like, oh my God, this is kind of crazy. Like I say, the energy behind... the 2013 PlayStation one was great. I will say this.
Episode 46.
If I want to go worst, and I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of ways. I don't want to say, if you want to go on the Sony side, which I don't because he says E3, but I will mention a quick Sony one that was really bad.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, he says E3 as a whole, right? So I'm talking about worst now because he said what's the best and what's the worst.
Yeah, the best is by far Microsoft.
The best now,
Microsoft.
From the worst or best?
Best. I mean, worst.
Worst. Okay, now I agree. 2013 Microsoft. It was bad. It was
real bad.
And now you saw them turn ship really hard, but it was bad, and there's not a lot you can say about that from my opinion. I think I know fans who still ended up buying an Xbox One and still ended up loving it and still use it to this day and do not play PS4, but even they came away from that just disappointed. It was a very odd thing, and it was weird. It was weird for the first time in forever to Sony just be unequivocally like, oh man, they really killed it because you had a measurable there was no crowd response to Microsoft stuff. No. Sony's was hit after hit after hit, and they were doing very well with that.
Everybody in the audience was going crazy.
So in that particular way, that's where I think it's the worst. But I do want to say, just as a singling out one really bad PlayStation one,
like was it 2009? Or 8?
Nah, I think it was like 2010 or 11 when they were doing PlayStation Move Wonder Book, and it was awful.
I thought that was 2009, but yeah, 2010 or 11, I guess.
Yeah, because it was...
I remember that.
Move came out in like 10 or 11. I can't remember exactly which one, but God, it was so bad. It wasn't running right. They kept pushing on with it. Now, a similar thing was when they came out and tried showing the VR thing with Richard... What's his name?
Excuse me.
Richard's. I can't remember it now.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you.
Director of VR.
Richard Marks. He's their. He's their guy who does all the research and development for the Magic Lab, which is the people who made VR and were like the head team of VR and the head team of PlayStation Move and iToy and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So anyway. when he came out to show VR, was trying to show the little game one-on-one, it was just really bad. It's a bad timing. So E3 is a mixture of highs and lows, and you hope that it tends to be better than worse. That's just kind of what it is. Saul, any other questions?
Sure, we got one more, and it's Mr. Sean Santarud. What has been your guys' most surprise game announcement pre-E3 or at E3, depending on when we answer the question? So I'm going to go
we're going
with...
to say this E3, right?
No, well, I'll say E3 in general. Because he doesn't say...
Well, he says, but depending on when you answer the question, which I assume means he's referring to this E3, because if we answer it after E3, then it's which one surprises the most during E3. But pre-E3, because there are games that came both ways, right? We're getting games like Rage 2 that are announced prior to E3.
I was thinking it was pre-E3 was just across all E3s.
I think he's specifically talking about all the pre-announcements we're getting this year.
Oh, okay. Fallout has me kind of shook. I don't really know what that is. And I think we're going to find out tomorrow night. I know we will find out tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think we know enough about Fallout to be in the realm of like, okay.
You know, when the teaser drops, you know how E3 works with the way they typically do.
Well, here's the thing. I think that there has to be some form of nugget of truth to that Kotaku article.
We'll find out.
Now, nugget. It may not be exactly that, but I do think that there's some truth to that.
Because there was, I remember where I saw it. I don't remember if it was in our Discord. I don't remember if it was on Twitter itself. But somebody came out as a dev and said that is not what the game is. So
that's why I say nugget of truth.
Now,
right?
Jason's a great person. His sources are always top notch. But
even then, sources for this, it's technically a rumor.
Yeah, it is. That is what it is.
And I can appreciate him trying to get people to temper their expectations.
I'm trying to think though, like what has got me excited so far this year? Nothing really like super excited besides Anthem, I guess. Anthem and this is the first day.
Anthem has been surprised.
This is
a bigger surprise than I thought it would be.
Saturday the 9th of June. So we're not into E3 yet. So what has like came out like before now? It's kind of hard. Like nothing Sony has shown in their pre-E3 shows has me like that well. The new VR game looked original, but nothing for me. I don't have VR. It got more Days Gone stuff. So Sony's kind of out of the question in that sense.
Sony's playing it safe still, and I'm hoping for the surprises.
Now, here's what I'm curious about. They showed Days Gone at that pre-show. Are they going to show any more Days Gone at all?
I don't think so.
Good.
And I don't think they should.
No, they shouldn't. But really, this year, is there any pre-leak that has surprised you? Like, but Rage 2, I guess?
Rage 2 has been the surprise because I didn't think it would happen.
I'm surprised at how good it looked.
There's two reasons. There's a lot that surprised me about that. I think Prey 2 is the obvious answer for me and a lot of people because most people would have never imagined that a second Prey would come, right? Prey didn't do that well. It had a lot of performance issues, and it was a very ambitious game that just kind of fell flat. But apparently,
Wasn't there a Prey 2, though?
I'm not sorry, not Prey, Rage.
Okay.
I'm screwing my own words
Well, I thought you were comparing them.
No, I'm sorry, Rage 2 is the one that I think is the surprise. Sorry, people. But no, so when you're dealing, like Rage 2 is one of those things. The first Rage came out on PS3, 360, and PC, and it didn't run very well. It had a lot of pop-in lag. I remember trying to play it and wanting to like it, but just couldn't and ended up getting rid of it. But apparently Bethesda said a number of times that it sold well enough to warrant a second one. But it's been so long since we've seen it that I thought, well, surely it's gone, right? But I thought the same about Prey 2, which ended up being Prey, and I was like, surely they won't keep trying to make a Prey game after all this. But what do? They just attached the word Prey to a game that apparently wasn't supposed to be Prey and kind of went with it.
I wonder what that game was originally meant to be. Like,
I don't know.
As an original title, because it had a really interesting premise. I need to get around to playing it. I saw it as like $4.99. Or $9.99 on the store like 2 weeks ago or 3
Even
weeks
then,
ago.
not bad for a decent game. But I think that there was a lot. So Rage 2 happened, and the fact that it was coming in general was surprising, right? And it got people thinking about is it ID Tech? Is ID Tech making another
Tech,
Doom?
Right?
Yeah,
is it ID Tech?
I mean, whatever you call it, whatever you want to. Probably id Tech. But my point being, is it them? Is it someone else? If it is someone else, what is it? And that was kind of odd. And then coming out and having it be the Just Cause team, and having it be a game that is very reminiscent in some ways of Mad Max, which is a game I just recently played this year, and is a fine game. And I actually will say, going and moving a team that made a game like that and meeting them up with id actually supervising a little bit of it, like I guess a supervisual role, and trying to help them make sure the game feels correct to the rage thing. I think taking that Mad Max gameplay and moving it into what I hope is a very Doom-inspired first-person shooter style would be a perfect mixture for a number of reasons, and I think it is bold for them to go this route with another big open-world shooter, with the only other one that you ever see really be that's in that same style and vein be something like Borderlands. I'm glad the Borderlands 3 is apparently not going to be shown. I think that's something that's important about that. So I think that that's my biggest surprise too, from a pre-E3 standpoint. I am curious to see what that answer ends up being after everything's said and done.
I'm hoping Bloodborne 2 is that answer.
Yep.
But for our main topic of the show, we have our boy Hassan. He always comes to us with a question in the inbox.
For those of you who remember El Chabib.
He always comes to us in the inbox with his questions, and they're always fantastic, and they're always are fun to answer. So that is what we decided to go with the topic up. This is kind of almost a fluff episode in a weird way with it being
I want to say with it, we're going to have a lot of stuff going on with E3, and it's going to be news is a very odd thing.
It's going to be uploaded weirdly. Like you're going to get you got an episode Sunday night for us for EA. You're going to get an episode Monday night alongside this episode, and then you're going to get two.
Oh, you're probably going to get Sunday. EA tonight, to be fair. So that's Saturday night.
You're breaking the illusion. You're breaking the illusion. People are not listening. They're not listening to this today. They're listening to this on Monday.
Sure, go ahead, Saul. Continue.
Anyways, but
I'll break more of the illusion.
We want to do like a little fluff thing. Nothing super going on in the news that we wanted to do a topic about. So he came to us with a question, and he says,
we've been very topical lately. Sorry,
we have been very topical lately. But he says, "Hey guys, what 4 games define you and have really stuck in your head as the perfect game for you? Mine are The Last of Us on PS3, Fallout 3 on PSP." Final Fantasy VIII on PS1, and Crash Bandicoot 2 on PS1. He has a couple honorable mentions there, talking about Battletoads on the Nintendo, Quake 3 Arena on Dreamcast, and Skyrim on PS3. So, Brett, what 4 games across all years of time, or do you want to do this generation?
Hold on. Well, no, I think all years of time is fine. Okay. But real quick, the way you said "Hey guys" sounded like Jack Tretton whenever he used to come out and be like, "Hey guys."
Hey guys. Who is that? I don't know who that is.
The old Sony. And actually, it's funny because you sound like the way that Callin and Greg used to make fun of Jackie T. Hey guys, Jackie T here.
Okay. I know it's funny. I know him when they reference him to that, but I didn't know his actual last
Jack
name.
Tretton. He's the old president that
hey guys
came before Mr. Sean Layden.
Love Sean Layden. Big old.
Okay, so this is what
glorious head.
I think this is a fantastic question.
I know it is.
So this
it's a very important question to ask yourself too.
That's why I think it's important to go multi-generational, right?
Right.
I don't think it's smart to pin it down to one. I mean, yeah, from a standpoint, I mean, your 4 games are going to feel very different to what defines you now versus what has defined you throughout your whole life. Because I think that certain games define you at moments and they stick with you because of it, even though in later years you may not feel the same way about them. That nostalgia paints them that way forever.
Right.
I will always feel the way I feel about Crash Bandicoot because I think it's so intrinsically tied to my childhood and some of the only good memories I have as a childhood, in my childhood. Like, I'm not going to say only good ones, but it's some of my most fond memories of my childhood.
Right.
So I mean, when you're dealing with stuff like that, I think that as you go throughout time and stuff hits you, I've talked a lot about games that I think really defined, I want to say even time periods of my life in different ways, and that have continued to stick with me because of that. And I think that, your past always carries forword with you.
Of course.
And that's, of course, why you have games like Kingdom Hearts 3 is making me stop breathing, because it pulls you back to a time when it's like, there was literally a point in my life where I didn't think that anything would ever be more important to me than Kingdom Hearts.
That's true.
Which sounds like a weird thing to say, but it is what it is. So, Saul, I think, how do you want to do it? Do you want to...
I'll let you go first.
Do you want to go literally across all, or do you want to take a little creative liberty and say 1 game per generation? Because if you think about the way they move through generation...
No.
Okay. Well, my idea was, if it goes across generation, and that might be the way that mine ends up going. It's hard to say.
Mine's going to be a majority from the... Well, maybe not. I was going to say a majority from this generation, but I think I have a couple in there that won't be.
Well, the reason I say that is because, every generation you do a lot of growing, and I think that you learn a lot about yourself in the time periods of when a console's out. Like, I've definitely learned and grown a lot since the PlayStation 4 has been out alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the PS3, a lot happened, and you grow up. And that was like where me transitioning into adulthood. So you learn about these games in very different ways. So I'm going to say mine is going to be breaking down across the 4 PlayStations. And I think that's perfectly in the way that my mind's going to do it, it's going to make more sense to me. So I'm going to agree with you on this. I'm not going to say Crash Bandicoot 2. I'm going to say Crash Bandicoot 3. And I do think that that's just due to a time period of when I played them versus when I was able to play the most and had the most cognitive ability to understand what I was doing really, really well in a way that stuck with me. That I can remember my memories of playing the first time Crash Bandicoot 3 more vividly than I can anything. I can remember playing Crash Bandicoot the first time, but not as vividly. I just have fond memories that I know that I enjoyed them. But I'm going to say Crash Bandicoot 3. And I think because, it perfectly encapsulates being a kid and it's being fun and silly, I think that Crash Bandicoot is a great character for that.
Yeah.
He embodies the 90s and the way that he embodies 90s cartoons really well. Aww. It's actually what I love. Crash Bandicoot should not be quotable, but he is.
Yeah, I know.
and that's what it comes down to. How do you quote someone who doesn't talk? But I mean, that's where he stands in my mind. I constantly will just, stupid things will happen. I'll be like, whoa! And so, I mean, I don't know. I constantly find myself, I think that Crash Bandicoot is like a comfort food for me. Like, when I'm in a bad mood, I just think about Crash Bandicoot or I'll play Crash Bandicoot and it makes me feel better. I love that series. And it's a different time in gaming. It's a different time in my life, and they kind of mesh together. Gaming was at a point where platforms were really important and having characters that were really cool. And like, Crash Bandicoot, he's a cool enough character, but I mean, he's a memorable character. He's somebody that you see him and you know him. Now, character-based games had always been going on, but they weren't always that memorable. Do I love Boogerman and remember Boogerman? Yes. And a lot of that was in the personality of moving throughout the game with him.
Right.
But Crash just stands so present in my mind that while there were others that did it, and I know for a lot of people that's Mario, Mario just wasn't it for me. So I'm going to say Crash Bandicoot 3. I love that one. Do you want to do 1-1, 1-1, 1-1?
No, you know you do.
Go ahead and do all mine.
All three left.
Okay, so I'm now going to move into the PlayStation 2 generation, and I think that that's a good way to go into. It's Kingdom Hearts. Yep. It's the first Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
And I've talked about that.
Kingdom Hearts 2
ad nauseum. Kingdom Hearts was the first time that and this sounds crazy because I did play the PS1 JRPGs on PS1, but you remember them a little differently, and I've gone back and played other ones again to give me different, and I respect them a lot more because of that. I played Final Fantasy IX at launch, and I liked it at launch, but when I went back and played it later in my life, I love Final Fantasy IX.
That's not a PS2 game.
PS1, but it's mixing in.
I thought you were about to compare a PS2 RPG.
No. So where I'm going though is that Kingdom Hearts was the first time that a game made me really have where I was notably able to go, wow, this is having a real emotional effect on me in a way that I can't believe it is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
And I think it was a mixture of things. And now the other thing is that it was the first time that I was 100% was oh man, JRPGs will be a staple in my life from now ever after.
I have a game that's going to correlate with that on my list too, that started everything for me for that.
And I think the other thing is, I know Kingdom Hearts is a very divisive series. I know it's obviously well loved. It's sold a ton of things, and the fact that we're seeing a third game come out in a long line of games this long after the original one came out in 2002, when you're dealing with that, I know that Kingdom Hearts is a little divisive, but the thing about it is I think that it encapsulates a generation of people who are coming up at a certain age. There's a small age window where I think people who were somewhere between 8 and maybe even lower teenage years, like 13 14, it just hit them in such a way that I think it engrossed you in a way that felt so real and so along the things of what you thought mattered to you. When I was that age, friendship was so important, and it still is.
It is,
but it's a very different thing. You're learning about friendship. You don't quite understand betrayal, and it feels like.
And you have more times with
it feels like when the stuff happens in that game with the characters. In case you've not played Kingdom Hearts, I'm gonna do you the favor of not spoiling it for you. I should.
Yeah.
But. My point being, when the stuff goes on to the game and you see friends betraying friends and all this stuff going on, it's it felt so much different in that point in my life. And I still love it going back to it, but I think it was more raw and different because you're growing and understanding things. So I do think that Kingdom Hearts is a mixture of a product of its time and a product of the people who played it when it was coming out. I think a lot of people were just getting into games in a very heavy way, and I know that Kingdom Hearts, I constantly say, is one of the games that broke me over into considering myself to be a very serious gamer. Whereas Crash Bandicoot was I'm a gamer. I'm for sure a gamer. I'm playing them, but I'm poor. I don't have a lot of things. But then I got a really really hard yearn to play games after beating Kingdom Hearts. I was like, I need more games.
Yeah. No, I agree. That game has a very similar, I say 2 more so, but yeah, that game had a very similar effect on me.
And I think that 2 stands differently because you've already played 1. I think it depends. You played 2 first.
I did play 2 first.
So I think that's
my baby.
That's where it goes. So I think it hits you at different times. For PlayStation 3, really, really trying to hit what is the best for PlayStation 3 is hard because PlayStation 3 was a very long gen. A lot of stuff happened throughout that time period. Now, the thing about his question that I like is that he says it defines me and is a perfect game for you.
Perfect game for you.
So these are 2 things, right? And I think that trying to find what exactly hits on them, I think The Last of Us is a good hit. The Last of Us is another divisive game that obviously sold very well. And while I wish that I could say that The Last of Us is what I consider that, it is a perfect game to me. And I think in some areas it could define me because I think a lot of what made me love the game is the character relations between these people. And that does define the way that I view life and go through life. And I do think that's a great answer. But from a more visceral, just straight on gameplay level, I have to say, as an encapsulating of my entirety of PlayStation 3, it's Nier. The original Nier.
Yeah, I get that.
Nier came very late for me in the PlayStation cycle. I actually did not play it at launch, even though it came out in 2010. I didn't play it until early 2012. After I'd kind of seen enough people coming in over and over again trying to get it on Xbox or PlayStation, and I was like, man, what is this
that was on
game?
Xbox, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I was like, what is this game? It looks awesome. It sounds awesome. And Jonathan had moved in, and he was like, yeah, I played it with my brother, and I really liked it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to break over. I played Drakengard. I liked Drakengard. I was like, okay, whatever. Let's see. And the game just encapsulated me in a way that very similar to Kingdom Hearts, but in a much more adult manner.
Right.
The themes and tones of that game, I think, set up a lot of what people like. You don't. It's fitting with moving into adulthood. Kingdom Hearts is about things eventually, ultimately, always turning out to be relatively good, but with a spin of back on like they're good, but they're good for now.
It's a realistic good.
Yeah, it's good for now, but there is that little bit in the background, like this is going to come back to bite you soon.
It's that looming good.
Yeah, so or good with a looming evil in the back, or whatever you want to call it, a looming darkness, which I think was fine for growing up, and that's a good way to analogize going into life. But I think that Nier is dark in the front and telling you that, yes, life is full of dark times and things are going to happen, but what you choose to do in those moments are what's going to matter the most. And I think the weight of everything you do in that game and the decisions you have to somewhat make as you're going throughout the game. And it's not a decision in the same sense they do play out, but you feel, because of the way they chose to do the characters, I think that you feel with what they're doing, and you feel like it is you ultimately making a decision. And the third and fourth ending are absolutely decision-based.
Yeah.
So somewhere in between the two, I think Nier's great, and it showed a very darker side of life that gaming up to that moment I hadn't felt hit the same way, and I don't think many games past it have hit the same way, besides Nier Automata and a couple of other, like I think Drakengard 3, very much the same. I think Yoko's got a very interesting way of telling stories in games in a way that most other people will not do.
Right.
And I'm not going to say all, because there have been some other dark games that, we could get into, but I think that we've seen Detroit, depending on how you play it, comes out with some very weighty and dark things. But there's something about that's like, that's life, and it hurts in a way that feels real, and it feels reasonable to the experience of living. I love that. Now, PlayStation 4, it's very hard to say because, I've not yet looked back at this gen in a full encapsulated measure.
Right.
And, you play games, and then sometimes you come back to them, because I'm playing games over again more often, like I was doing in the PS3 game era when I was playing PS2 games again. But when you're going back to the games on the same system, playing them, like you said with Bloodborne, going back to Bloodborne, you're actually realizing that you like it more in your head than you do
on paper.
Actually playing it now.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because I think really what it is that going back to this game that is not quite the game series that it is in correlation with, and having tempered expectations of that game series. So you're playing Dark Souls 3, then you go into Bloodborne, and it's completely different. And now that we are using triangle to heal instead of square.
Sure.
We're not getting refillable Estus shards. There is no bonfire. You have to go back to the Hunter's Dream to heal. You cannot lay down at the lantern. And it's stuff that isn't a big deal. It's just so drastically different. And it is that, as good as Bloodborne is, I've had more fun with Dark Souls 3. However, Bloodborne is the better game. I'll say it like that.
You know what? That's a great way to word it, and I will agree. I think that's a great way to word it.
Dark Souls 3 was just generally across all boards, but I'll get into that list in a minute.
Yeah, and then just to finish that thought real quick, I mean, Dark Souls, and you can finish it yourself, but Dark Souls had the benefit of learning from Bloodborne.
Yeah, and I think that
and iterating on Bloodborne
the
in some
engine
ways.
and using the Bloodborne engine and such too was a really good benefit for 3.
So my PS4 game currently, and I'm trying to really make it not be Nier Automata. And I'm going to go a different route, and I think because the game was weighty enough on me in a way that I also feel like is very worthy, and it hits different tones. Whereas Automata hits a lot of the same tones as Nier, as the original Nier. I'm not going to go God of War, even though I think God of War is great, and it's so high up there.
It is good,
and I think it may change to God of War when I have even more time to reflect on everything.
That's the thing about
That's the thing.
How fresh it is.
You still have to give yourself time to reflect, but I've had plenty of time to reflect, and I actually am going to say that from a pure making me feel a certain way and in a way that I think is very true to who I am as a person and the things that I really love. You know me, I'm an animal lover. I love animals so much. The Last Guardian.
Oh, I was like, what? Where's this going?
The relationship with Trico, whatever you want to call him, Trico, is, oh my God, dude, that game does so much with so little that it honestly it was breathtaking to me when I was playing it. Did it have a couple of clunky camera? Yes. And I know that some people thought it controlled poorly and archaically. Whatever. I don't quite agree with that. I think that they have their own style that all their games have controlled this way. I don't think it's a product of their era because I don't even remember other PS2 games controlling the way theirs did. It is just something that they do. Now, should it have changed? I think that's in the eye of the beholder. I think it was fine outside of these slight moments where the camera would catch up. I only had one real moment that happened to me, but I understand it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But the frustration doesn't matter. The experience as a whole, including the frustration that people had with saying that Trico, whatever, didn't listen.
There's a video game donkey video about that game. It's hilarious.
Oh, really?
I'll show you.
I'm going to have to look at that. But my thing is that, that game was very divisive too. And it's funny that a lot of the games I'm talking about are very divisive in very different ways because they obviously have huge fan bases of people that love them.
Right.
But there's a very vocal group of people who don't.
Very much so.
And very vocal. The Last of Us being one of them. Is it obviously greatly loved? Of course. But there are a lot of people who are very vocal about the fact that The Last of Us to them is mediocre. And that's okay. But
what came out around the same time as Shadow of the Colossus did? The remake?
What, this year?
Yeah.
I
just never realized I never beat Shadow of the Colossus. Like, it's still sitting there. I'll never beat it. I cannot believe that.
I don't know, because that was
something that made me completely forget.
February, right? Was when it came out?
Monster Hunter.
Yeah. I can see that.
I got to go back and beat that again.
But yeah, I think that game and the way that it built the relationship between the two was really awesome to me. I thought that was a really cool way to pull that off. And it just felt, as somebody who loves dogs and loves to go through that, it felt like giving me a dog in a very short window of time, letting me build. And the dog is just where I'm going with it, but giving me this creature that I'm going to have this bond with, and it's odd to me that they were able to convey this much of a bond in this game the way they did, that it ended up sticking with me in such a crazy way that I still think, dude, the ending literally made me, and I'm not ashamed to admit it at all, the ending made me tear up. I basically cried at the ending, and I will say, yes, I did cry at the beginning of The Last of Us. I don't care I don't care anything, even if The Last of Us is a bad game as an entire package. The beginning of that game gets me every single time, even worse now that I'm a father. But when I'm dealing, and when I'm dealing with that, it's the same thing. I am one of those weird people, and I know some people hate this, but I'm one of those people that I love my daughter, and she's obviously my family, but my dogs are my family and my children just as much as my daughter.
Yeah.
And if anything happened to them and I saw them do the same things, it's like, it was very heart-wrenching.
Oh, no. Yeah, that gets me too.
So those are my 4. But Saul, let's go ahead and hear yours.
Sure. So I'm going to be fairly quick with mine just because I've talked about these games, almost everyone I'm going to list here in length at some point in this podcast. And we're going to start at the very beginning because I'm kind of doing this in a weird order similar to you, but it's really kind of different because you have a Nintendo fan on this. And I know you're a Nintendo fan as well.
Sure.
This is where we're going to get some
Their games
variety.
have just never, their exclusives have never struck me the same way.
Well, yeah.
And I didn't play a lot of the exclusive third party, but go ahead.
Right. So we have Link to the Past. If it wasn't for that game, the very first game I ever played, I think that coming into gaming would have been a little different. It would have been, I actually know it would have been different just because of what we had. And, it's it amassed a love for Zelda, which was great.
Absolutely, and I think Zelda's a great game, and I think that
Zelda's a great game,
a great series. Yeah. Sorry, a great game series. But
it's a good game.
A Link to the Past is a great game, and and Zelda's a great series. And now, whether we talked a lot about how I feel about Breath of the Wild,
right?
And I think that I do think that you are generally in the consensus with me in the fact that it is a little overshot, but I know that you do think it's a great game.
Oh, Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's a 10 like everybody says.
Yeah.
I think that it does things that other games do, crafting, recipes, free roam. I think it just does it well for a Zelda game.
Yeah, and that's cool, but yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
it has so much
spawning
variety
a franchise like that, but I get you. This is the weight of making, it's similar to what Crash Bandicoot is for me, where it's like it's the weight of making you a gamer, and also pulling you into a series that you still love to this day.
Exactly. It paved a way into a franchise that I still will play to this day. Some of my favorite games of all time, including Link to the Past, are all in there with it. And I have to give Link to the Past credit for that, because I can't imagine how different my gaming story or my gaming life would
history, whatever you want to call
it, would be now if I'd never played that game. Because we also had Super Mario All-Stars. And I didn't enjoy that game that much. For those that don't know, that was a collection of like the 4 to 5 Super Mario games that had came out on Super Nintendo and Nintendo, and it was on the Super Nintendo. But the second game, and I love my childhood for this. I'll never forget this being a big part of my childhood in many ways, whether it was owning merchandise, watching the show, playing the games, playing the card game. It's Pokemon Red.
Okay.
Because
I think Pokemon's a great answer.
Yeah, Pokemon it solidified my love for turn-based RPGs. It solidified my love for another series I still love very dear to this day, except Pokemon Go. And it's one of those things that like you get so encompassed by it when you're young that you will always love it forever because of that. And it's something that
I do agree.
It's rare that somebody can have something in their childhood and it still be relative and evolving when you're 27 years old.
And still be massively successful.
Yeah. Or successful, yeah. But Pokemon Red, first Pokemon game I ever played. So there we go for that.
Have I ever told you that Yellow was actually the first one I ever played?
No, but I'm a little jealous. I wanted Yellow.
Yeah.
I wanted Yellow because of the Pikachu, but I got Red and I choose Charmander, which Charizard overhyped. Squirtle where you at? But yeah,
I didn't get a Game Boy until Yellow had already come out, and it just happened to be the newest one. Yeah, and I ended up getting it because I did not understand that it was like a different game, but also similar.
Well, yeah, and it's also weird that Red and Blue are Game Boy games. Mm-hmm. I got a Game Boy Color.
Yeah,
you know what? I just now found that out like 10 years ago. I did not know that growing up that I had a game for a system previous to that. I thought those were for Game Boy Color specifically.
Yeah, no, they came out in Game Boy.
No, now Silver and stuff is what changed.
Yeah, but
Silver and Gold.
Yeah, Silver and Gold could still be played on the Game Boy. That's what was wild. Silver and Gold could be played on Game Boy, but they didn't have color.
Now, Nintendo, where's your backwards compatibility at this generation? Because that's some weird backwards compatibility there.
That's forwards compatibility, I guess. Yeah, right? That's that Xbox.
That's futuristic compatibility. But yeah, if it wasn't for those games, I don't think I would have picked up any of the Final Fantasy games because every time I played a Final Fantasy game, starting with 10 and going all around, was because I was like, oh, that turn-based system or that system is like Pokemon. I didn't even know that was a thing in games.
Sure.
So it opened up a wide number of games for me. My third game on the list is Nier Automata. And it's a very odd answer because while it's not a 10 out of 10 by any means, it is one of my favorite, if not, now that I've gone back to Bloodborne, I'm having these arguments in my head of what I like better with Bloodborne and Dark Souls, made me realize that I think I like Nier Automata better than Bloodborne.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know, like they're such perfect games for me that I can't decide.
Real quick, like you're saying, you said that Nier Automata is not a 10 out of 10, but and this goes back to that's why I like the way he worded it. It's the perfect game for you. Like it's not about the game being an objective 10 out of 10. Exactly. It's about the game being a 10 out of 10 in my mind.
Exactly. And here is the important lesson that it taught me. It had good values. I keep moving this stupid mic. It has good values. The gameplay was fun. The combat was fun. The game was diverse. It had so many different ways of combat in it. It changed so much. The characters are lovable. The story was solid, and the amount of replayability is amazing. That's not why that game's on the list, though. The game is on this list because it has taught me that I may hate a game when I first try it. That does not mean that I will hate that game forever. It taught me to give games chances instead of just throwing them away at the first look at. Because I played that game 3 times. I got it at launch, tried to play through it once. I did not like it that much, or I kept getting distracted by something else. So what I did was I put it on my shelf, and tried again in May of the same year. I was on vacation for my birthday. And then I did not like it. So I was like, this is not fun for me. I'm going to trade it in. But after hearing all the hype about it, and after like, maybe I'll give it one more shot, I'll get a little bit further in, and getting about 5 to 6 hours in instead of 2 or 3, because the game's slow.
Yeah, no, it is a slower start. Yeah.
But once I got that far into it, I loved it. And I loved it a lot.
Well, I'll say it's a slower start. It's a mixture because technically the first mission's kind of bombastic.
No. It's slow in terms of pace.
Yes, and I agree.
In terms of action, it's way up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Nier Automata. I will recommend it day on and day out, and I think that it is, or day in and day out, and I think that that's the reason I put on this list is because the values it's instilled in me is to just give games second chances,
which is a great value because it's funny. I'm a little. I noticed that you found that out a lot in the past 2 years. Like a couple of games you've gone back to and been like, wow, I don't know why I thought that wasn't good, but that it's happened to me a few times, and there's been a few games that have taught me the same thing. And it's kind of crazy when you go back to a game that in your mind you built up that, not that you hated it, but you're like, I just don't like it. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my time.
And that's why I gave Surge a second chance. Sure, I got it for free on this recent PlayStation Store thing, but I went back to it. I'm just like, man, it's just not fun for me. It's just not a good game in my eyes, so I'm just going to put it down.
I'm going to do the same thing with the Surge, because you remember I got a good way through the Surge, and I dropped it, and I was like, and I didn't know if I wasn't feeling it at the time or what, but I mean, there was some legitimate,
it was repetitive.
Yeah, there were some legitimate things, like I said, like repetitive enemy, enemy typings and stuff, which was, but I also wonder, because I was excited for the game up until it came out.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you right now, I gave it a second chance. I gave it a solid second chance. The same goes for Witcher 3. I played The Witcher 3. I got mad because of how dull it was, because I got through the first 2 hours, the Griffin quest or whatever, the first 2.5 hours of the game after some exploring.
Which is either great or bad for you, depending on what you think, And
I faulted the game because I was like, I do not understand what is going on in this game. Like, they have done a poor job of telling me what is going on, who is this character I'm chasing after, what is her relevance to me. It did not do a good job of doing that. And I tried it again with a more open mind. I'm going to go back again because it's not that I don't like the game. It's just it's not working for me, just the same way Nier was. But I'm going to go back again. I downloaded it digitally this time, so I can't have traded it in and have no excuse. And I'm going to try it one more time, maybe sometime soon. But my last game on the list, and even though I did not start with this game in the series, it has climbed its way to the top of this list, which is in no specific order. But it is Dark Souls 1. And I think that Dark Souls 1 is the game that instilled the love in me of this series. Demon Souls was the first one I played, because when I told myself, I got in that gaming lull back in 2013, late 2012, I think, whenever it was, I lived at the Links.
It was before the PS4 was, PS4 was out, so I think it was either late 2012 or early 2013. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I got in that gaming lull. I had that PS3, so I played through Uncharted 3 a little bit, and then I needed stuff for it. So I played through Dishonored, and then I played through a couple of other games, and then I forgot about Demon Souls, and I went and picked up Demon Souls. And I got a fair amount of fun out of Demon Souls. Despite the very first time I played it, I got to the mountain area. I can't think of its name right now. That's the second area, I think. And,
it's been a long time that I've played Demon Souls, but I know where you're talking about. I don't know the name.
Got invaded by somebody with a degradation gem on his weapon, and he just completely broke all my armor that I was wearing, and I had to grind to fix it all, and I did not want to do that. And I went back to Demon Souls after that because I quit right then. I think I've told this before. And I went to Dark Souls 1, but Dark Souls 1 is the game that I'll have fond memories of, and like I said, it's this game. For the love of the series, this is not my favorite game of the series. I think Dark Souls 1 is also a very flawed experience. There are people that are complaining that the remaster didn't fix things, and what they realized in complaining about it is just how many flaws the game actually had that they wanted fixed. Like, this is all like you're mad at a company because they made a remaster of it, and I understand, I get it, but the game had a lot of flaws to begin with. Like, the game was flawed, and you were hoping for a fix. But other than that, like, I'll never forget opening up shortcuts to get back to Firelink Shrine in that game and being like, wow, this world is really, really well interconnected, and taking on ONS, Ornstein and Smough, because I hate saying Smough's name because who knows? I have heard so many people say it differently. But Ornstein and Smough so much, and like the first time you fight them, it was a great experience. And it taught me that's like, I went to this and you were there with me. I went into the series and Dark Souls 2 was already out because I got the Dark Souls 2 Collector's Edition at GameStop one night with me and him there. So I had the luxury of having all these games available, all for me to try out. And I think that if it wasn't for Demon Souls to get me to Dark Souls, and then for Dark Souls to instill this love of the game series in me, that I would not have the games that I like today so much that I have to choose from. I would not have been or I probably would have played Bloodborne, but Dark Souls 3 being such a fantastic game for me, I'm seriously addicted to that game. Send help. But yeah, it's just been that. I think that right there is one of the perfect games in my eyes, despite it being flawed, and despite it having its weird quirks, its weird bugs and glitches and stuff that luckily aren't that present on console remastered, but it is on PC, and I think that it just works really, really well for me. I think it's a perfect game for me. I still like Dark Souls 3 better, but I've talked so much about that game that it's like a heroin addict talking about heroin, so I gotta stop about that because I gotta break the addiction somehow.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's it. That's my 4 games.
Okay, well, good. Hey, LTB, thanks for the question, man. It's a great question. So what we want to do now, because this is a great question for this, we want to know, what are your 4 games that you think define you? Let us know in the comments below. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know in the Discord chat if you want to join us. The Discord chat's down below in the description. If you like what we're doing and you want to support us on Patreon, even give us $1. It helps us deal with equipment cost, which will definitely help with also the cost for keeping this podcast going up on podcast fees, services.
Yeah, for SoundCloud.
So things like that. If you want to help us, that's great. We'd appreciate it. But if you don't, then the show will continue to be free. No problem. You can always join in with us, and yeah, let us know what you think. I think this is a question ripe with answers. Now, I think I would like it to either be in comments or somewhere where you can go longer form than Twitter, unless you just want to message us on Twitter.
And Discord,
because the thing is, Discord's great too because we can go back and forth.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared about Discord for some reason. There's so much activity. I don't think Liam and Hokuto have known each other that long. Like, I don't think they're friends outside of this, but boy, are they best friends now from our Discord. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Discord's incredibly fun.
It has fantastic interactions in there.
But yeah, I think this would be a great question for Discord or something where you can go longer form, because I not only do I really want to know what your 4 games are, it's one of those things. I like the way that Saul chose to do it, and I actually think it's a great way to do it. But the way I did it made sense for me, and I feel like I'm probably not alone in that. There's something about a game that encapsulates a time period in your life. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to know exactly why. I mean, like, the most fun part about this question is not just naming the games; it's about saying why I feel that way.
And how different they can be, very person to person. Because you understand, somebody may love like World of Warcraft for a specific reason, and somebody else may love it for a different.
See, and I actually think that, and like, what, the fact that I did not bring up RuneScape in this is a really big thing, because RuneScape's a huge part of my life, and I do think it defines me in a lot of ways. But I wanted to keep it with something that had a more. I don't want to.
It's terrible.
It's just different, huh?
What?
What'd you say? RuneScape's terrible?
Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to.
Saul might be dead next time.
I just now realized there's a massive camera bounce. Look at that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, don't do that. We will see you for the next episode, which will be, I think, 64 at that point.
64.
So this has been Triangle Squared. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.